Good morning. We are back to the study of Between Heaven and Earth. And like we've been doing through this book, because this book is really a story that is all interconnected, we need to go over past chapters. Last month with Elmo, you studied chapter 13 and chapter 14. On chapter 13, we have Clarencio operating magnetically, guiding Leonardo Pires, the old man in the house, the spirit that is in Antonina's house, into past memories. And we discussed the usefulness of inducing regressive memory in certain spiritual assistance activities. And can the mind undergo specialized interventions to achieve balance? And we see the answer, the explanations by Clarencio. And then under the influence of past memories, Leonardo Pires undergoes a transfiguration. We talked about perispiritual plasticity and the causes. So he takes his former perispiritual form. And also under the influence of the memories triggered by the presence of the changed Leonardo, Antonina also undergoes a transfiguration, revealing her past identity as Lola Ibaruri. So on chapter 14, we have the dialogues between Antonina, now under the form of Lola Ibaruri, and Leonardo, both immobilized in the same realm of memories at a certain moment from the past. How Lola Ibaruri was drawn into the family that Leonardo had formed. Leonardo is Antonina's grandfather. So she was reborn as his granddaughter, Antonina. Leonardo then attempted to free himself from the mental creations that torment him internally, calls upon the presence of Stevis, a central character of his introversion, and Stevis responds to the summons. And then Clarencio intervenes, preventing a conflict between them, a fight, and shortly thereafter gives Leonardo into the care of two spiritual friends who lead him into a house of readjustment where he'll be helped. And then he then helps Antonina return to her physical body, where she awakes crying, was sobbing as she had experienced a strange nightmare. So that's what we studied in the last class. Now, again, this graph here shows who is who in this story, because it gets getting a little bit confusing. It's too many characters. So we have Leonardo here, who is the grandfather of Antonina, and he has this dispute with Stevis that we are going to see in this chapter as Mario. His past love, Lola, reincarnated as Antonina, his granddaughter. 4 children Antonina has: Lisbela, Henrique, Haroldo, incarnated, Marcos, discarnated, that she visited a couple of chapters ago in Lar of Benção, House of Blessing. Okay. The story that we almost forgot, but is the main part of the story, is Evelina with her diverted prayer that called the attention of the mentors. She is married. She's the daughter of Amaro, and Odila. Odila is discarnated and obsessing the new wife of Amaro, whose name is Zulmira. And we are going to, and they have the son also, Julio, that died drowned, and is being rescued and assisted in the spiritual world. We visited him in the spiritual world at that house of blessings. And we'll see more about him. He will come back in the new incarnation. And Zulmira is connected to, we'll see how Zulmira is connected to Stevis, Mario, Zulmira Lina in the past is connected to Esteves Mario in this new incarnation. Confusing, but we will discuss as we continue to go over, okay? So next chapter is chapter 15, that is called More Than Just a Dream. And I'm going to ask Zoraida to read to us.
Okay. More than just a dream. Turning to Estevez, Clarenzo offered him a friendly embrace, but the young man burst out in supplication. Don't touch me. Let go. I'm the victim here. The minister abstained from continuing his show of sympathy with the plodding step of someone carrying around a burden of troubles. Donaldo's enemy left, went back out on the street, and headed for home. We followed him at a short distance. Day had arrived. People were busy walking to work. Streetcars creaked along sleepingly, and here and there cars had begun traveling the streets. Estevez stopped in front of a large apartment building. A large clock nearby showed that it was 5:30 a.m. Without saying a word, he gave us a glance and disappeared inside. We too went in. We found him trying to re-enter his physical body. Without troubling him, the minister helped him recover his natural calmness little by little. He was still a bit drowsy when the alarm clock went off at 5:45 a.m. Estevez rubbed his eyes, grimacing as if he had a bad dream. He quickly got dressed. We noticed that a small business card had fallen out of his pocket and could read a name, Mario Silva, healthcare professional. Clarenzo affirmed, in the past, our friend was Estevez, but now he is Mario Silva. He is following his former vocation as a healthcare professional. Let's listen to what he has to say. The young man washed up and then was received into a small room in the apartment by a kindly old woman in whose look we divided the love of a mother. After saying good morning, the woman asked in good humor, well, what kind of night did you have? You look awful. I had a horrible dream, Mom.
Okay. So what we have here, we saw that Esteves, he was in a sleep state. He was taken to Antonina's house to meet Leonardo. In the past, if we remember the story that Leonardo told, he killed Esteves by poisoning him because of the love that both had for Antonina and then Lola. But Leonardo was never able to forget about what he did to Esteves, carrying the guilt, but also the hatred, the anger, the desire of vengeance still against Esteves. So when he calls Esteves, and Esteves is connected to him through the mental vibrations. Again, here it's important to understand the mental connections that we have. We find ourselves where our mind, our vibrations take us. So let's say that if Mario, Esteves, now Mario, had been in a better state of mind, working to overcome his difficulties, working to, even if he doesn't remember about his past, the behavior that he has in this present life and vibrational levels still connect him to the enemies of past lives. Again, we are surrounded by spirits from present and previous existences, connected to our loved ones and to those that don't really like us or don't care for us or associate with us because of our addictions, imperfections, and so on and so forth. So again, David wouldn't be there with Leonardo if it wasn't for his mental vibrations in the present life. But when the first thing is that he sees Clarencio and Andre Luiz and Hilario, and he thinks they are policemen, as we're going to see when he describes to his mother. He doesn't want them to touch him. He leaves in a hurry when Leonardo is taken away, and goes back home, goes back to his physical body that is sleeping. So Esteve's spirit goes back and reconnects with the physical body. And then Andre Luiz describes that as they leave the house, the city is waking up. It's 5:30 a.m. Cars, so on and so forth. And he looks at them. He still sees Clarencio and Andre Luiz and Hilario because they made themselves visible to him. And then he disappears inside and re-enters his physical body. Clarencio helps him recover his natural calmness, and the clock went off at 5:45 a.m. He wakes up, and he is feeling like he had a nightmare, a bad dream. That's what his thought is. And he gets dressed and prepares to go to work, and then they find his name in the present life, who is Mario Silva, a healthcare professional. And then Clarencio tells that in the past he was Esteves, but now he's Mario Silva, and he's again working as a healthcare professional like he was in the previous existence. And then he goes into a small room and he meets his mother and tells them, when the mother asks, "How was your night?" He said, "I had a horrible dream, Mom. I had a nightmare." Okay. These two chapters, a lot of stories between the individuals so you need to connect the dots to previous stories, present stories, and I'll try to connect the dots for you. But the main things here will be the spiritual vibrations, influences, and our spiritual understanding of who we are and what we are doing with our lives. Okay.
Yeah.
Questions here? Okay.
Okay. With expressive gestures between gulps of coffee, he explained, "I dreamed someone was calling me in a loud voice from far away. I thought some patient might be in a lot of pain, so I rushed to help. But instead of winding up in a hospital room, I found myself in a badly lit, humid cell." And trying hard to recall the details, he continued, "I was surprised to suddenly find myself in a prison cell with a nasty-looking criminal and a wrench woman who was crying. I took a liking to her, but felt an aversion for the other. I had the clear impression that we all knew one another. I regarded them with a mixture of hatred and suffering, especially the man, who seemed to have a spiteful look in his eyes. I asked myself why I didn't flee from such a detestable place. But whereas I felt repulsion toward the man, I felt the greatest tenderness toward the woman. As strange as it may seem, I wanted to assault him and embrace her at the same time. I didn't know what was going to happen when the criminal advanced toward me with the obvious intent to do me in, but the woman was prepared to defend me. I was speechless, not knowing if the criminal meant to murder me right then and there, so I decided I would fight back. Blinded by incomprehensible rancor, I was just about to come to blows with him when all of a sudden a policeman and 2 guards showed up and separated us. With just one blow, the policeman contained my aggressor and made him sit down, winning so much of my respect that, in spite of wanting to listen to what the weeping woman on her knees had to say, I didn't budge. Then the policeman called out orders, and other helpers showed us and dragged my enemy out of the cell. After sitting me in an old chair, he took the woman further inside the prison. It seemed that Mario could not recall any more, and after hesitating briefly, he finished. After that, I can't remember. I only know that I ran out and headed for home because a policeman seemed about ready to take me away. Fearing being thrown in jail, I woke up bewildered and depressed. The old woman, who had been listening attentively, said calmly, a real nightmare. It was sure, agreed Mario, worried.
Okay, thanks. So here, what's interesting is how he describes the dream. So we see, you know, we talked about dreams many times. We have two types of dreams. Basically, the dreams which is our brain rehashing our daily lives. It's not experiences in the spiritual world. These are the dreams that everything is very confused, nothing makes sense. So there's no story to tell. It's just flashes of images and events without any connection to each other. This is not experiences in the spiritual world. And then we have the dreams that our spiritual body leaves our physical body behind, still, of course, connected through the silver cord. And we go and have experiences in the spiritual world. Because these experiences happen in the spiritual, with the spiritual body and spiritual brain, the physical brain does not register them. Once the spiritual body comes back and reconnects with the physical body, it brings the recollections and transfers it to the physical brain, and then the physical brain is able to remember sometimes more, sometimes less. People say it's important that if you want to remember your dreams, when you wake up, you write, because otherwise you go back to sleep, you forget, because the physical brain hasn't fully registered. But even the impressions we bring from the spiritual world, and we discussed about Antonina dreaming with her, and the experience she had with her discarnated son, that Clarencio tells Andre Luiz that is important. She doesn't fully remember, otherwise she wouldn't be able to re-enter the physical body and reconnect with her duties as an incarnated person. So it's important that she just remembers a nice dream with her son, but not more than that. So again, it's a combination of our needs and our physical brain and our necessity of remembering or not remembering. So you see also that one thing that is important, that when our physical brain receives the information from the spiritual brain, the connection, when they reconnect in their physical body, it receives a lot of information that sometimes is not fully formed, it's broken, pieces of information, and our physical brain connects the dots with our physical life. So clearly here we see that happening, because Mario, and I'm going to call him Mario from now on because it's easier, Mario comes back explaining the dream to his mother, and he interprets the dream as he thinks that he's going to help a patient, and so, but instead of a hospital room, he finds himself in a bad-lit, humid cell. He finds himself in Antonina's house. It's a very simple house. It's nice. So that's why he has the impression that he's in a cell, because of everything that's happening around. And he sees Leonardo. He remembers Leonardo as a nasty criminal, and he remembers a woman who was crying. He has the impression that we all knew one another. Of course, they know one another from the previous life, Leonardo, Lola, and Esteves. But he doesn't really have full memories. But he does understand and remembers that he has a hatred for the guy, of course, Leonardo. Leonardo killed him, so of course he hates Leonardo, and he has uh, a sympathy for the woman because he loved her in the previous life as Lola. Again, he didn't fully love her; was more of an attraction, but he really had a strong connection with her. So he has the tenderness, but he cannot recognize them. He wants to assault him and embrace her at the same time. That's his remembrance. And then he talks about two policemen coming to intervene, which is Clarencio, Andre Luiz, and Hilario. He remembers that. The impression is that because he thinks of a cell, he thinks of them as a policeman, guards. And then what happens is the policeman controls the aggressor and then is taken out of the cell. We know that Leonardo was taken by just two spiritual friends to a house of assistance. And then they took Antonina back to her physical body so she would wake up. And he remembers as them taking the woman farther inside the prison. And then he says, I don't remember anything else. I remember running away because I thought they were going to arrest me, this policeman, which was not true, right? You see that Clarencio tries to connect with him and he feels afraid and runs away, goes back to his physical body. I think what is interesting here is how what really happens to him in a dream and what he interprets of the dream makes us understand better the dream state. And again, it's important when we remember our dreams not to give literal interpretation of them. So when you dream that I dreamed with my grandfather and he was taking me to and a lot of details. So the dream of the grandfather is true. The details may not be true because our physical brain may connect the dots and we, with our physical life, may misinterpret what really happened there according to our understanding of our incarnation now. Okay, so I think this part is very interesting to explain the process of dreaming and how things work and how we interpret the dreams. Okay, comments here? Any questions? Okay, let's move on.
Okay. His mother contemplated him kindly and added, does your dream have anything to do with Zumila? Mightn't the woman in your dream be our old friend and the man who inspired so much repugnance, her husband? Mario became slightly pale, more taciturn, and replied sadly, who knows? You've never received any more news about her? No, only that she's living here and that her husband is some sort of important railroader. I never could understand her attitude. So many years together, so many plans for happiness, but she traded all that for a widower with two kids. Mario looked downcast and remarked, well, anyway, let's avoid pointless memories. I shouldn't think about Zumila anymore, and that Amario she married is just a black spot on my heart. I think my best sentiment for the two of them is the hatred I harbor toward them in my memories. I don't want to see them again. And frankly, if I knew they were living around here, I would insist on our moving somewhere else. My dream was just a plain old nightmare, some imprecise concern or some sort of food poisoning. The woman smiled, disappointed, and said, as for me, I'm convinced that at night we meet people we either love or detest. During sleep, our spirit seeks out our loved ones or enemies in order to settle our accounts with them. No doubt about it. Her son, obviously unimpressed, stood up, hugged his mother, kissed her white hair, and concluded, time to go. The dream's over and reality is waiting for me. I have to help out with surgery on a couple of kids at 8 sharp, and I can't be late. The hospital doesn't care about nightmares. He displayed a forced smile and said goodbye. His mother went with him to the door and got back to her housework in a pensive mood. As we prepared to leave, my mind was cascaded by obsessive questions. Had we discovered a new twist in the story of Evelina's prayer? Could the Amaro and Zumila mentioned by Mario be the same two characters we visited earlier? I was about to ask Clarenzo about it when his eyes met mine. Seeing that I was puzzled, he said, I know what you want to ask. Our new friend was indeed the fiancé of the obsessed Zumila. He had planned to marry her, but she rejected him for Amaro, who owes her assistance and love. The past speaks in the present. They are entwined in a web of debts that are clamoring to be paid. Will they meet again to continue their redemptive struggles? Asked Hilario. No doubt about it, replied the instructor firmly. Mario's devoted and sensitive mother meditated on her son's dream while automatically sweeping the floor and asked Jesus to bless him. We made note of the thoughts in her worried mind. She knew what it had caused her son to give up the woman he had chosen. She knew his enigmatic temperament and dread seeing him tormented and defeated. Her silent prayer rose from her head like a fine jet of light. Clarenzo approached and transmitted calming energies that soothed her heart. Then he introduced her. Sister Minervina, here is an old acquaintance. She has been blessed with 6 children, whom she has raised admirably. A selfless heart, a soul rich in faith. He embraced her warmly and we left. On the way back, seeing that we would like to follow Mario Silva to get more information for our fascinating study, Clarenzo suggested it wouldn't be right to inconvenience our friends during their daily routine, provoking clarifications that would be unpleasant and inappropriate. We'll wait till tonight, because while the physical body is recuperating, the soul invariably seeks the place or object that attracts the heart. We agreed we will wait for nightfall when we will continue our experience.
Okay, thanks. So, connecting the dots here, right? So the mother, that's called Minervina, we learn later, as, does your dream have anything to do with Zulmira? You see that Mario went to meet Leonardo and Antonina from his past, but he has his present life, and his issues in the present life are with Zulmira and Amaro that we met in the beginning of the book. The second wife, the obsessed, Amaro, the father of Evelina, the couple that we saw in the beginning of the book. So Mario and Zulmira were friends and lovers from childhood, companions, and she left him to marry Amaro. And of course, Mario could never forgive her. She knows that she doesn't really know about her. Before social media, we could lose contact with people much more easier than nowadays, where apparently the young generation never lose contact with one another because of all the different possibilities of connections than social media. But at that time, even living in the same city, we lose contact with others, and we could completely lose connections. So talking about, sorry, my dog here is about. So Mario, you see that he carries the anger. He says, I shouldn't think about Zulmira and Amaro, that Amaro she married. he hates them, and again, the hatred I harbor towards them in my memories. We find here the connection that takes him back to Leonardo and Antonina. If he didn't carry this hatred in his heart, and he had forgiven Zulmira and forgot about her and Amaro, moved on with his life, and wouldn't carry this hatred, it would be very unlikely that he would be dragged in the past with Leonardo and Antonina, because he would be vibrating at a different level. So that's very important here. The hatred towards Zulmira and Amaro means that he connects also with old enemies of the past, and allows him to have these influences. But of course, he discards the dream, no, just a nightmare. I don't know if it was them or not. And his mother, who is much, we see that is much more spiritualized and a little more evolved, says that during sleep, our spirit seeks out our loved ones or enemies in order to settle our accounts with them. That's what she believes. But Mario is unimpressed, kisses his mother, and leaves, saying that he has to work. He has a 8 a.m. Surgery in the hospital, so and nobody in the hospital is concerned about his nightmares. And Andre Luiz again then gets very intrigued. Have we discovered a new twist in the story of Evelina's prayer? Meaning, are we reconnecting with the family, with Evelina? And Clarencio, of course, seeing what Andre is thinking, said, yes, of course, that Mario was a fiancé of Zulmira, and she left him for Amaro. And so they create a web of debts that need to be paid. And Hilario asks, they are going to reunite again? And Clarencio says, no doubt about it. And then we see how a person that is praying with sincere devotion is helped and assisted, right? The mother is praying, sincerely praying. The prayer rose from her head like a fine jet of light. And then Clarencio, of course, connects to her, transmits calm energies that soothe her. Again, when we sincerely pray, we have received the immediate assistance of the spiritual benefactors. And then he describes her, saying that she had 6 children, she raised them admirably, she is a selfless heart and a soul rich in faith. And then they left, following Mario to get more information, but Clarencio advises them that it wouldn't be right to bother him during, or him and his friends during their daily routine, not disturbing the physical life, which is important, and we have to live our physical life. And Clarencio says, let's wait for tonight, because when the physical body is sleeping, the soul connects to the place or objects that attract the heart, where our vibration, where our mind takes us when we sleep. So that's when he said, let's wait for nightfall, where we'll continue our experience. Okay, again, just this part just reconnects and explains the connections between Mario, the now Mario, Esteves in the past, with Zulmira and Amaro, the couple that we met in the beginning of the book. Amaro, the father of Evelina, that sent the diverted prayer that started the book. Okay? Comments, questions here? All right. So we finished the chapter. Now chapter 16, more experiences.
Okay. More experiences. In the middle of the night, we went back to Mario Silva's home, followed by Clarenzo, who, as usual, worked alongside us as our diligent and kindly mentor. The healthcare worker was in bed, but had not been able to get to sleep. The dream for the night before was tormenting his mind. Mulling over impressions of the day, he asked himself, could that really be Amaro, my rival, who had resurfaced in the form of a criminal? And that weeping and overwhelmed woman, could she really be Zumila, my childhood friend, still troubling my memories? What could be the reason for us all meeting again? He was trying to completely avoid the memories of his youth, which is why he did not believe the cause of the strange nightmare laid within himself. He was convinced that someone had clearly called to him with words that he had to listen to. Could it be Samuela in trouble? If so, could it be that she had remembered him? If his conjectures were correct, would he have the right to approach her again? He did not think that was possible. The scourge was wounded pride was still bleeding in his heart. It wouldn't be right to rush to her aid, even under the pretext of wanting to help her. He had only gotten a glimpse of her husband, but that was enough to detest him with all the stores of hatred possible. Even though she used to be dear to him, if she did ask for his assistance, he would have to turn a deaf ear. Disturbing hypotheses and unanswerable question assailed his apprehensive, rancor-filled mind. His former aversion toward his rival prevailed, controlling him. What if he could re-enter the previous night's dream in order to find a solution? The figure of Amaro grew in his mental field. He continued with his thoughts. If souls really could meet one another again outside the body, I actually could see my enemy and get revenge. If I really had been invoked in a dream, then I myself ought to be able to do the same. I could summon Zumila's dastardly husband to come and explain himself. I could concentrate my power of thought on him. I could find out where he is. Clarenzo contemplated with pity. Taking advantage of the time to teach us something useful, he remarked, passion is always blinding. Our mental life is our own true life. Thus, when passion has its hold on us, we see nothing and feel nothing but our own troubles.
Okay. Thank you. So we're back to Mario's home. It's time for him to go to sleep. He cannot get to sleep because his mind is full of thought and of conjectures. He starts thinking about the dream he had, that if that was Amaro that has resurfaced in the form of criminal, we know he wasn't, but that's what he's thinking. And the weeping woman could be Zulmira. We know that he wasn't, but that's what he's thinking. And he's thinking why they should meet again. Again, when we carry the hatred in our heart, why it's important to forgive, what we always talk about in Spiritism. The importance of forgiving is not for the one we are forgiving, but for ourselves, for us to get rid of the inferior thoughts and vibrations, the poisonous thoughts that we carry with us. So we see here that we have no, and up until this point, we have no idea if Zulmira or Amaro is thinking about him. They may not even remember that he exists theoretically. That's not really the reality, but let's think of here theoretically. They may not even remember him, Mario, and he carries this thought of hatred, of vengeance towards Amaro, and even a little bit towards Zulmira. So he poisons his own mind and his own vibrations, and that disturbs his life. So The importance of forgiveness, once again, is for ourselves, 100% for ourselves. It has no bear on who we are forgiven, and it doesn't matter if the person is angry at us, is indifferent to us, doesn't care about us. It's only exclusively for ourselves, for us to get rid of these inferior thoughts and vibrations that we carry with us and that poison our existence. And we see here Mario reflecting that could he have dreamed with, because Umira is in trouble, if she remembers him, if she was in trouble, would he help him or not? Because remember, he's a nurse, so he can help her if she has health problems. But he said, he starts rationalizing, it wouldn't be right to help her because only in the pretext of having her back. And he says here he only got a glimpse of her husband, but that's enough to hate him with all his heart. And he concludes that if she asks for his assistance, he would have to turn a deaf ear. And we'll see later in the book why he's having all these thoughts. And then he was taken over by his hatred towards Amaro. Amaro starts taking over his mind. And he starts thinking if they could really meet in a dream, like he was taken somewhere, why couldn't he also call Amaro and have a fight with him to explain himself and could find where he is? So he starts sending these vibrations towards Amaro that he barely knew. There is one small correction here. Clarencio contemplates him with full of compassion, not with pity, but with compassion. Okay, that's the original, which makes much more sense. Clarencio wouldn't have pity on Mario. He would have compassion. So Clarencio tells Andre Luiz and Hilario that passion is always blind. Our mental life is our true life. So when passion takes over, we see nothing and feel nothing but our own troubles. So we have passion. We study that in the Spirit's book. Passions are very helpful, and here passion in the broader sense, not only in the passion in the lust or love, distorted love session, but passion for things in life. If we are able to rein on our passions and use them positively, we have a great tool and resource for leading our life. If we let our passions take hold of us and control us, we run the risk of falling in very dangerous events in our lives. So that's important here when he says passion has its hold on us. We see nothing and feel nothing but our own troubles. Again, how we deal with our passions is important on how we live our lives. Okay? Comments, questions here? Okay. Nobody says anything today, so we keep moving.
Okay. He began applying soothing passes to Mario as he tossed and turned in bed. As if he had taken a sedative, Mario's nerves relaxed and his body went to sleep. But reappearing on our plane, he began to gush forth the sentiments that controlled his soul. He did not register our presence as we observed his slightest movements. Nervous and tentative, he wandered around the room in his extremely heavy perispirit. Little by little, his eyes took on a haggard look, giving us the idea of someone possessed of terrible inner afflictions. The instructor noticed our silent amazement and explained, as was the case with our friend Leonardo, Mario is suffering from an anguishing fixation complex. Even though his particular case has been somewhat softened by the struggles of the flesh, which are sometimes a blessed diversion, he has not managed to dilute the obsessing memory of his old enemy. Bitterness is his troubling mental wound. As long as he is distracted by his day-to-day business, he is somewhat shielded from the heavy torment he bears within himself. But now he finds himself all alone in spirit. He has yielded to the hatred that has coagulated in his heart for so long. Let's watch him. Mario went out on the street like a madman. As he inhaled the refreshing air of the night, he seemed suddenly reinvigorated and began shouting in a shrill voice, Mario, you thief! Mario, you usurper! Show yourself. If you have any dignity at all, face my vengeance. I am not afraid of you. What you have done with the woman I loved. Answer me, answer me. Mario Silva walked aimlessly as he, half drunk, spouting off vehemently. He had followed him several blocks when someone appeared unexpectedly before him right there on the street. Responding to his impulse like iron attracted to a magnet, Mario in his subtle body had answered the strange call of his enemy, partially disengaged from his own body. They confronted each other ardently at first, but then, with the manners of a gentleman, Mario took a few steps back, showing that he wanted to avoid any conflict or trouble.
Okay. So Mario is having trouble falling asleep. Clarencio gives him, applies soothing passes to Mario, and then Mario, as he has taken a sedative, he relaxed, and his physical body went to sleep, and then he leaves the physical body, and he cannot see the presence of Clarencio, Andre Luiz, and Hilario. Remember, we can see the spirits that vibrate at the same level or below our level. We cannot see spirits that vibrate at a superior level unless they make themselves visible to us. And in this case, Clarencio, Andre Luiz, and Hilario don't think it's necessary at this moment to make themselves visible to Mario, because it would disturb his intentions. They wanted to see where, to allow him to do what he wanted to do. And he's wandering around the room in his extremely heavy perispirit. Remember, we talk about the perispirit. The more we evolve, the more subtle becomes the perispirit. The more we are less evolved and still attached to material things of the physical world, passions and interests and love, our perispirit is denser and heavier. So that's what Mario has because of his thoughts and his vibrations. And Clarencio then explains that as was the case with Leonardo, Mario is suffering from anguishing fixation complex. Remember, Leonardo was there in spirit. Leonardo is not incarnated, but with his mind focused on the issue, only on the issue of getting vengeance, of persecuting, hating. It's almost like a mono idea, which is not the case. Otherwise, he could have risked losing his spiritual format and become an ovoid. Not the case. But it was almost like that. And Mario incarnated, but with the same fixation complex. But what difference? He's softened by the struggles of the flesh. What does it mean? He has a physical life. He works as a nurse in a hospital. So he has the distractions of the physical life to take his mind away from his fixation thought. So during the day when he's there working, he can get distracted by his needs, the physical need, the needs of the physical body, his work and everything. But which is, as Clarencio says, sometimes a blessed diversion, but he cannot elude the obsessive memory of his old enemy. Bitterness is his troubling mental wound. So he has a wound in his mind, which lowers his vibrations, and during his daily work, he's shielded from this torment that he does to himself. But as when he finds himself alone, he goes back to the hatred that he carries in his heart for so long. Again, important here, when we have troubles in our mind that are not related to our daily activities, we should use our daily activities to distract us from focusing too much on our mental anguishes. But we need to address our mental anguishes at one point or another, to overcome our own mental challenges, to be able to move on with our life and not to carry hatred, anguish, rancor towards anyone or situations, okay? That sometimes, many times we have no control over, and we carry this anguish that really disturbs our physical life. So the importance here, what we are learning here from Mario's struggles, is not to yield to our fixation complexes or mental problems. So Mario leaves out, runs into the street, starts calling out Amaro, calling him a thief, usurper, asking for him to show himself. And then suddenly Amaro shows up also in his spiritual body, answers the call of his enemy. Why does Amaro appear? Well, Amaro is also vibrating. If you remember, he's struggling with the loss of his son. He's not paying much attention to his wife. He partially blames her for having allowed Julio to die, to drown. He's immersed in his own problems and is not able to elevate his vibration. So he's vibrating at the same level or of Mario, and when Mario calls him, he answers to the call. But differently from Mario, he doesn't carry anger towards Mario in his heart. So when he sees Mario, he avoids confrontation. He takes a few steps back, trying to avoid any conflict or trouble. Okay. Questions here, comments? All right, let's move on. Soraya. No mute, Soraya.
Okay, thank you. Mario, however, shouted disconcertingly, "Don't be a coward, you thief. Stay right where you are. We have accounts to settle." But Amaro immediately turned and left. Without losing his impetus, his adversary followed him unrelentingly, holding to his dark purpose of aggression. We accompanied them block after block until we reached Amaro's home, where the railroader decided on a peaceful confrontation. Showing that he wanted to defend the peace of his home, Amaro was waiting at the door for Mario. "So," shouted Silva in aspiration, "this is the serpent's nest." Shaking his fist at his humble rival, he continued, "You should pay dearly for your intrusion. You wretch, what have you done with the woman that was my happiness and my life? You shattered my dreams. You destroyed my ideals. Look at what you have done to me. I'm just a work machine with no faith and no hope." I didn't know, alleged Amaro in distress. "I never meant to hurt you." "Liar. How can you pretend you don't know what I'm talking about? Where's Zumila? Do I have to kill you to set her free? Faced by others' composure, he asked, don't you recognize me? Of course I do. You're Mario Silva, a person to whom I owe consideration and respect. Consideration and respect? What impudent pretense? How can you say that after stealing my bride by deceiving her with lying promises? I only found out about your old love for her after I was already married. But if I had known about the two of you, I would have given her up for you. I really like to be of service to you. But now, liar, I don't believe you. You're just a wolf in sheep's clothing. You stole my only possibility for happiness, my only happiness. Amaro looked at him sadly and asked, do you think I'm happy? Do you think that marriage is just satisfying the lower passions? Do you think a married man should regard his wife as a mere slave? I love Sumira as a companion and sister whom I must protect. Neither of us is in a marriage that could be called a bed of roses, where contented desire is like a flower that dies after one day. We have suffered a lot, Mario. You know that this is my second marriage. For that reason alone, Zumila couldn't find in me the perfect happiness that she had the right to hope for. Our relationship began with a series of maladjustments that accumulated with the death of my younger child in a terrible disaster. Ever since then, our home has been a thorn bush of suffering. My wife has fallen seriously ill, and I myself have been troubled and failing. Can you grasp the misfortune of a father who, mortally wounded, weeps without tears? If I owe a debt to divine providence, you can rest assured that I have suffered much to pay it off. For me, death would be a liberating blessing. As you can see, I'm in no shape to accept the challenge. I'm torn, more than just torn. I'm beaten. With a heart-wrenching inflection of supplication, he exclaimed, if you still love the woman I married, help us with your understanding. If I'm unknowingly done you wrong in any way, forgive me, because the anguish of my life has condemned me to dreadful moral trials. To our amazement, Mario Silva replied with a scandalous burst of laughter. Forgive you? Never. From the tone of what you've just told me, I can see that justice has begun to be served. Even so, I shall hasten it with my own two hands. My vengeance is sure. My hatred is unquestionable. Amaro didn't respond. He bowed his head in fervent prayer. Gentle radiations of emerald green light came from his brow. His unspoken plea for help reached our spirits like warm, harmonious waves of humility and trust. Silva could not sense any of it and continued shouting, why don't you say something, you coward? Speak, explain yourself, do something. You've managed to control Zumila, but you won't budge me 1 inch. Criminals like you don't deserve pity. At this point, Clarencio said, let's answer Maro's prayer with fraternal assistance. Gripped by sympathy and emotion, we did not hesitate to agree.
Okay, thanks. There's not much here. It's really a discussion between someone that wants to hurt, who is hurt and wants to hurt back and wants to attack, and someone who doesn't want confrontation. Amaro is in no condition of fighting back. He doesn't want to fight back. He has no, he doesn't harbor any ill thoughts towards Mario. And he says here, I didn't even know that you and Zumira were a couple. If I knew, I wouldn't have interfered. I met her, we married. It's my second marriage. It's not a happy marriage. I have all my troubles going on there. But Mario doesn't want to hear. He just wants to attack. But remember what it's a popular say, when one doesn't want to fight, two will not fight. It's not a coward approach from Amaro. It's a sincere approach, saying that he doesn't see any reason to fight. He's asking for forgiveness from Mario, because he didn't know it. He didn't know that Zulmira had this connection with him. He met him briefly. He learned about their connections after the marriage, when it was too late to dissolve the marriage. Again, remember, this is some time ago, and it was, it would be a scandalous thing, and it will be very hard for the marriage to break. So he's describing how they are struggling, and we know they're struggling because Zulmira is sick, obsessed, with a guilty conscience for thinking that she killed little Julio or allowed him to die. Amaro doesn't want to connect with her because he still carries this feeling that she caused little Julio's death. So they live in a house where there is all suffering around, and he doesn't really want to get into a fight. But Mario is blind by hatred. You see here the blindness that hatred can bring to one person. And again, if you think about in a impartial way, his hatred should be much more towards, if it would be justified, it should be towards Zulmira, not Amaro, right? Zulmira was the one that left him and married Amaro. But his hatred apparently is much more for Amaro, which is, it doesn't really make much sense. Of course, there is always connections from the past, and I'm sure, Amaro and him had the past to readjust. But in this incarnation, the reality is that his hatred should be towards Zulmira much more than Amaro. But he wants to attack Amaro any way he can. And Amaro is just trying to defend himself and take it. And he even tells him, death would be a liberating blessing for me. I'm in no shape to accept your challenge. I'm beaten. And asks for his help and comprehension. He asks for his forgiveness, but Mario is blind with hatred. He said, I can see that justice has begun to be served. I'll continue my vengeance, my hatred. And then Amaro starts praying, sincerely praying, asking for help, asking for assistance. Mario continues to shout, but Clarencio, of course, the sincere prayer, comes to his assistance and says, let's answer Amaro's prayer with fraternal assistance. That's what we are going to see, the assistance in next chapter. And Andre Luiz and Hilario agrees and start ready themselves to help. So again, there is a lot of good information on these two chapters, but these two chapters tells us about the connections, about our sleep, our dreams, and the what we carry in our minds, our vibrations takes us where our mind is focusing, and it gives us some ideas on how to deal with the thoughts that sometimes come to our minds, how we should deal with them, and how should we address our struggles. Okay, that's the end of it. So if no one has any comments or any questions, we are going to close here earlier, but next month we are going back in time to understand better what has happened. And it starts with Mario, they making themselves visible to Mario, and Mario recognizing them from his previous dream. But that's for next month, okay? So next Sunday is the second Sunday of the month. We're going to study the gospel according to Spiritism. Okay, we are in the chapter of prayers that we started last week, which is a very important and good chapter. And we just talked about prayer here a couple of times in this study, and we see the importance of prayer. And the gospel, in the study of the gospel, we will see more and understand better. Okay. Thank you all for participating. Carol, can you do our final prayer?
Yes, thank you so much. Very, very interesting subject. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, all goodness, all grace, we are grateful for our studies today of the book Between Heaven and Earth, chapters 15 and 16. During our sleep, our spirit seeks out our loved ones or enemies in order to settle our accounts with them. The past speaks in the present. Our level of vibration connects us, whether it is positive or negative. Sincere prayers can reach the spiritual benefactors for assistance. Also, forgiveness shifts our vibration and our toxic energy. It helps us to get rid of our negativity of hate, vengeance, and anger. Our mental life is our true life, in which we become fully self-absorbed. Our daily life can be a respite and distraction from our mental worries and anguish. Fraternal assistance can be a true blessing. We give thanks for the opportunity to be together today, as well as we give thanks to our spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us, and for our loved ones, our teachers, the directors, our counselors, the mediums, the workers, and each who are participating. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for world peace, and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center SGNY and all Spiritist centers throughout the world, that they may grow, expand, and be totally protected. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to family, friends, loved ones, and coworkers. And may we go forth now as beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and of true charity. So be it.